So in this video, we are continuing to practice completing the square. I know for some of you this is a challenging concept, so I just want you to see it a couple more times. If after the first video you're thinking, I got this, go ahead and skip to the you try and get some feedback on those in class tomorrow. Alright, so step one, we got to divide that leading coefficient. You can't complete the square when there's a leading coefficient. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. And then we want to get the two terms with a variable by themselves. We have that in this case, so we're going to jump to completing the square. So our first step is to divide the b term by 2. And then we square that value and add it to both sides. So the 1 that I got when I cut the 2 in half is what I square and add to both sides. Remember, with completing the square, you don't want to think when you factor. You just factor it. We forced it into the perfect square trinomial. So we get x minus 1 quantity squared. The negative sign comes from here, and the 1 comes from here. Taking the square root of both sides, perfect square factor of 8 is 4, square root of which is 2. So we are now on our last step, which is the solving piece, and adding 1 to both sides. Alright, one more and then we'll get to those you try problems. So first thing, divide by the leading coefficient, which remember is the coefficient in front of your x squared term. So I'm dividing everything by 6. Isolating my two terms with the variables, I'm also going to flip them around so my x squared term is first. Adding 6 to both sides. Divide b by 2. Square it and add it to both sides. Factor, remember this is the part where you're not thinking about the factoring, we forced it into this perfect square trinomial, so we just throw it into the binomial squared. Remember the plus sign comes from the coefficient of b, and then the 5/2 comes from cutting the b in half. Alright, on my right hand side, 5/2 squared is 25/4. So if I convert 6 to have a common denominator of 4, it will be 24/4 for a total of 49/4. And then we're going to take the square root. So the square root of 49 is 7, square root of 4 is 2. And subtracting the 5/2 from both sides, we are not going to leave our answer like this because there's no radical. These are like terms. So I've got negative 5/2 plus 7/2, which gives me 2/2 or 1. And negative 5/2 minus 7/2 is negative 12/2, which is negative 6. So for those of you that couldn't follow my rambling, that's how we got our two answers. And the you try problem.